Hey YouTube, it's Dimitri. Today I want to discuss more or less kind of like a therapy session, I guess, for myself, but also kind of getting into like small businesses with a lot of different people. It's really common for everyone to like graduate with a finance degree, data science, financial engineering, stats degree, and a lot of people all want to go towards like the banking side. They want to run out and be a consultant, and they want to go out and make all this money, right? Because that's what big companies do. But probably the biggest, most life-changing experience I've had throughout my entire career actually has been working for a startup company. So I haven't really talked a lot about my background. A lot of people have like this general fuzzy feeling of kind of what I've done. But really, like, I've done a ton of stuff, especially at the age of like 23, 24. I'd worked at a startup company for many years. I started off on the very bottom. So let me just give you a background here so we can kind of dive in. My father started this company though with 10 investors in total. From all over the US, so this isn't like a mom and pop shop, like let's scrape together our 10 cents and start up this little rinky-dink business. This is a legitimate business with investors and millions of dollars in investments into the business itself. But I started there just doing these like crappy tasks. And then I was like, you know what? I don't like doing this. I'm going to school and I'm doing these like tasks on like after school and I'm working on weekends. I just don't like being in the office and like filing papers everywhere. It's just not me. So I asked like, hey, can I just move out to the manufacturing side? So this business manufactured precast concrete restroom facilities and utility buildings. So yes, it made toilets, like basically outhouses, concrete for like National Park, Forest Service, all kinds of different agencies. When you're driving along the freeway and there's like a restroom, we are probably one of the manufacturers of that. And then we also made utility buildings. So these are essentially just square buildings with like pitched roofs, and they use these for like airports, telecommunications, like all kinds of other like storage needs of electrical components, or just storage in general for like lawnmowers, maintenance stuff for parks. But the thing is, these buildings were manufactured as a manufacturing business. And so I got tired of working in the office side of it. Like, yeah, filing papers is great, but that's just not what I wanted to do. And so I ended up going and asking if I could just move to the yard. So I was one of the manufacturing guys. So I didn't get any special preferential treatment, you know. I feel like in general when you have family businesses or someone who's in the family that runs the business, you have two routes. You have the parent that like favors the child and like gives them all these great promotions and puts them in the easy position. And then you have the parents that make their kids work really hard because either A, they don't think they can do the job, or B, it's because they want their kids to work harder and learn life lessons. I think that was essentially my second part. Is my father, who was the president, he actually wanted me to work harder, and I think he didn't understand like my skills and abilities at that point, which was fine because I was just in high school, but I didn't have like a lot of hard experience in life. And so I moved out to the yard and I reported directly to whoever was running the actual operations at the time. So I got crapped on, I did all the dirty work. I was shoveling concrete, cutting rebar, putting weld plates together, which is like the casting part of this. It's a little more like grunt labor, where eventually I ended up working my way kind of through and I got some experience and wanted to go towards the finishing side. So I ended up doing painting and working on that. But at the same time as all this is going on, like I'm doing the manual labor, I'm working, I'm going to school. So I'm finishing up high school, I went to college, and I worked there during the same time. So a lot of times I'm working like 10, 20 hours a week, and a lot of times I'm working 40 hours a week. I know in the summers, a lot of times I'd be working 80 hours a week. So I'd be doing 40 hours manual labor, and then I actually ended up doing 40 hours in the office. So if you have a chance to work at a startup though, it's amazing. Yeah, I didn't get paid a lot. That's part of being family, that's part of working at a startup, in the sense that like, you're just not gonna get paid a lot of times because companies just don't have money. They have cash flow problems. This is part of running a small business. Yes, it sucks. It's the downside. It's the piece that I think everybody skips over, and I'm gonna talk about all the great things in a second, but having to go through a lot of these scenarios and situations and being in this situation where you can't make payment, vendors are coming after you, people are suing you, your business, everything, like, it's not fun to be a startup company. It's not like all glory and glamour like everyone makes it to be. But that being said, this was the greatest experience of my career. And that was right at the beginning. And the reason is when I started going to college, I went to college to get a bachelor's in business administration. in finance. So I took finance, accounting, and economics, like my main 3 topics I really studied in undergrad. So when the business was growing, you know, we needed a website. So I had a friend help me build a website. He put it up. It was all right. I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't really what we wanted. And so over time, I was the guy that just took the website and I built it. So I taught myself HTML, I taught myself CSS. I just dove in and built a simple website. It wasn't fancy. We weren't running Java, PHP, and everything else. And there's a whole theory behind why we didn't do that. But the thing is, I would have never gotten that experience. No one would have ever hired me. Like, oh, you have a business degree and you've nenever programmed before? Yeah, dive in and build a website for us. But I built websites, I worked on accounting, I managed actually accounting employees, I checked work, I actually checked and corrected work from CPAs. But the thing was is that I learned so much in this position, and I worked my way through being like a grunt worker, doing like the manual labor. I worked my way up, I was an operational manager, I managed all the financials for the company, I managed all the accounting for the company. I did a ton of work. I was never labeled an executive. You do not want to be an executive in a lot of situations because you take legal liability for the company itself. And there's a board of directors that reports into the system and everything, but a lot of times you don't want to be an executive. And in my opinion, you don't unless it's your business and you can run it the way you want to run it, because then you can legally control the situations you're in. But if you're not, right, you're not able to control a lot of it, or at least your area, then I don't recommend ever being an executive or taking that title, which is why I never took the title. But this job was amazing. I was able to teach myself programming. I was able to do all this accounting. So when you're in college and you're like a young kid, I was doing the accounting on the books of an actual company. I was filing 1120s. I was creating depreciation schedules. I was fixing botched accounting from CPA firms. I'm not a big fan of them. But the thing was, is I had to go back in and fix all this because at the end of the day, we had to file taxes. All the responsibility came to me, which was stressful, but it was just so rewarding and so fulfilling working at a startup because everything you did made a big difference. And I think this is where the trade-off comes a lot of times when you're working like big companies. A lot of times you're just pigeonholed into doing one skill. So if you only want to do one thing, work at a big company. It's just going to be your like daily grind. You're doing your same thing over and over again. But I think part of this is you can't see a lot of times when you're inside these massive companies how your work influences the actual outcome, the actual business. So again, like I mentioned, like when I was manufacturing, it was amazing. I loved doing it because I was actually able to see customers, work with customers, and see like, oh, the work I did, like I painted that building, I laid that stone, I cast that building, and see the customer being happy with the product that I created. And then on the flip side, like doing the marketing and the website design was amazing because I built this website, I had no experience, there wasn't a lot of pressure on me. I designed literature as well, we did email blasts and all kinds of stuff in the marketing realm. So I have a lot of experience doing marketing, which a lot of people don't realize, doing marketing analytics, studying different people. But the thing is that it was amazing to build something that was just crap when I started and like evolve it over time and then start tracking all these analytics and the data behind it. Like, okay, nobody was watching the website. No one came and looked at it. And then I made these changes. I worked with Google. I optimized this. And then all of a sudden we started getting more and more people. We started getting more and more clicks and like viewership and subscriptions, and all this stuff is starting to pile up and it snowballs. And it's just amazing to be at a startup company, to have your hands on the actual projects and learning all of this. And so just the moral of the story for this video, guys, is if you have a chance to work at a startup company, be wary. It is dangerous. You might not get paid. It's a very risky situation. But a lot of times if you're hired in these startup companies, they need people that are just gonna like dive in and just do it. And it's very rewarding because A, I was able to manage people a little bit. I corrected work, did edits, I fired people, I've hired people. It's stuff you don't experience at the age of like 22, 23, 24 years old, where many people, it's like they go through this career and they're like 45, 50 years old by the time they're in that position. You're never gonna get that experience, especially at a young age, without working at a startup company. The payout, it's risky. Trust me, I know it's risky. If it doesn't work out, you don't really get paid or you can lose a lot. Especially on opportunity costs. You can miss out on other opportunities, you can miss out on other salaries you could be making, you might not have the best health insurance and benefits, but the trade-off is if it does make it big, you can make a lot of money. But I think the number one thing to consider as a startup is if you want a lot of experience, you want to do things that you're never going to be able to do at any other company, especially these big companies that just pocket people into specific tasks, which I completely understand, but you're just not gonna get that experience without really doing a startup company. Anyways, guys, I hope you consider working in a startup if you have the opportunity and not always focus on just like this big corporate America kind of atmosphere. Especially for millennials, I think we just prefer to work in more of an individual setting, and a lot of times at startups you have kind of that freedom. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe below, hit the bell button for weekly updates, and as always, until next time. Thanks for watching my video. If you find it helpful, please like, share, and subscribe.